Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Woo-hoo! Hello, everybody. I am so excited for you today because you are in for a treat. Because we are talking to David Newman. He is a certified speaking professional. So that's CSP in the National Speakers Association world. He's a keynote speaker, host of the podcast, The Selling Show, which is ranked the top 1% globally with over 450 episodes. And he works with founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs who want to build bold personal brands and become business celebrities and drive unstoppable growth. Yes, I want that. That's me. And hopefully that's you too, for who's listening. So welcome, David. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Penny Zanker, CSP.
Thank you for the acknowledgement of the CSP. It is a big deal, right? I think that I wanted to say that, but I didn't want to say that I was one too. But there's only a small percentage of people.
It is a very tight brother and sisterhood for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm excited. You've got a new book coming out, and I wanted to pick your brain around that. But before that, I first came to one of your courses. What was it? It was probably like 10 years ago.
I think so.
And I loved your you kind of like a no nonsense. This is what it is. You don't like it, too bad.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Where did your love for marketing come? Like, how did you get into marketing? You've been in it forever.
Yes. Well, so before I was an entrepreneur, I spent 10 years on the inside as a corporate consultant and speaker and trainer. Went out on my own January 1st, 2002, and I had no idea, Penny, about any of these things. No idea about marketing, totally clueless about sales, couldn't close the door, all the cliches, terrible. So I'm a case of you are most effective at teaching what you yourself most need to learn. So first I had to master some of these marketing and sales skills myself, purely for survival. Other people started to come to me and say, hey, how are you landing these big corporate contracts? How are you closing clients like IBM and AstraZeneca and Chase Manhattan Bank and so on and so forth? So, hey, David, can I pick your brain? Hey, David, can I pick your brain? Time after time after time started to occur to me, maybe there's a business here. So around 2008, I moved away from my own corporate B2B business, and I started to help other consultants, speakers, experts, executives, etc., market and sell into the Fortune 500. So that evolved into the courses that you very kindly mentioned, some programs, some consulting, some keynote speaking around these topics about how to make a name for yourself. And now with this new book, the ultimate iteration of this is what I call Market Eminence, which is a combination of visibility and respect and brand preference. That's the entire 23 years compressed into a few sentences.
Fantastic. Well, I can tell you that out of all the courses that I've been to, and I've been to a lot because I really believe in self-development, yours is one that I remember and feel like it had most value. So
thank you.
I want you to know that I really, really respect you and the work that you do. So for those listening, you definitely want to be checking out David's work. So let's talk about this new book that's coming out. You talk about sort of the how-to is broken, right?
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
Tell me more about that.
Sure.
Why is the how-to broken?
Sure. So the formula that I've come to as far as this concept of market eminence is simply, how do you be seen at the top of your profession? As an executive, as a C-suite leader, as someone who wants a strategic seat at the table, even as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a nonprofit leader, all of those camps can benefit from market eminence. When I say how-to content is dead, we are recording this right now on the 3rd anniversary of ChatGPT becoming publicly available and taking off like wildfire. How-to content, you and I and the smartest human beings on the world smartest human beings in the world cannot compete with AI and all the AI tools and AI platforms to crank out how-to content. So how-to content has been commoditized. How-to content is done. We can stick a fork in it. Do not waste your time there anymore. If you want to gain some attention and visibility and respect in the marketplace, we need to move away from how-to content and move to three new areas. Area number one is not how to, but it's how to think. So strategic insight about how to process what is happening in your area of expertise. So how to think is pillar number one. What to believe is pillar number two, and equally important there is what not to believe. So separating the signal from the noise, separating the myths from the truths, separating some of the half-baked, outdated ideas from what's current, what's coming, all of those things. So what to believe is pillar number two. And then the third thing is how to prepare for what's coming next. Because if I know one thing about CEOs, founders, executives, high-level people, they hate being ambushed. They hate being surprised. They hate being sideswiped. So if we can do some trend spotting, if we can help them get ready for what's coming 3 months or 6 months or 12 months down the road so that they're not blindsided, they're not surprised, they're prepared, and they're perhaps more prepared than their competitors, you will automatically elevate to this level of market eminence. But you need to be talking about these three things, not how to, but how to think, what to believe, and how to get ready for what's coming next.
Awesome. I love that. I'm relieved to hear that because I feel like I'm in a good space with my recent book that came out, The Reset Mindset. So, I'm talking about mindset and how to think and doing some of those other things. So, and I 100% see that as well, that there's so much content, the how-to content that's on LinkedIn anymore that it's like, I don't even want to post anymore because it's like, oh no, not another, tell me this. What about in all of this element, right? One of the things that I think is also standing out, I'm curious about your thoughts around this, is that element of storytelling.
Yeah. Well, storytelling is fantastic because storytelling is your ideas and insights in applied action, right? That's basically when we tell a story, whether it's a client story or just an example or some sort of metaphor, it's like putting handles on your idea. Abstract concepts don't really land with people. But when you have a story that has characters and conflict, an inflection point, and some resolution, people tend to remember that story because it's your ideas that are abstract applied to a real world person or a real world situation or a real world problem. So one of the things that is a really powerful combination is, let's go to category number two, which is what to believe, what not to believe, separating the signal from the noise, the myths from the truths, and so forth. I could tell you all kinds of things. I could say, branding is dead. You could say, time management is for losers, all of these little concepts. And people might write that down in their notebook. But if you say, listen, let me tell you why I say time management is for losers. One of my clients, I'm now embodying a Penny Zanker story, perhaps.
Okay.
One of my clients was so maniacal. She lived out of her calendar and her to-do lists and her schedule and her agenda. Every minute of every single day, including nights and weekends, was accounted for, scheduled, blocked, and protected. And she was making herself so crazy that when I told her to reset her mindset, not about managing her time, but about managing her energy and managing her focus, her entire life changed, and she was no longer so tied to the calendar and the agenda, and she got so much more done because now she was in charge instead of blah, 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 blah. Whatever the punchline of that story is. When you say to someone, you think time management, priority management, productivity, and focus lives in your calendar, and you might say, well, every other productivity and time management kind of person is saying that. What can I do that goes against the grain? And then what story can I share of a real life ideas applied to action little vignette that people will remember? So now the bathroom buzz and the hallway buzz after your keynote, Penny, is, oh my God, I can't believe it. Throwing away our calendar can actually increase our productivity. Who knew? And again, I'm not sure if that's true or not. You're the productivity and the focus guru, not me. But saying things like that,
Yes.
here's why it's important. Whether you're an executive, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a speaker, author, trainer like Penny and me, you need to have these hooks and these handles on your ideas so people can remember them, they can apply them, and they can repeat them to others. If you have that, that is the multiplier effect on your market eminence.
And to that last point, that they can repeat them to others, that they want to repeat them to others, not just that they
Yes.
remember it, right? But that it's so sticky and so cool in the insight that they got that they're compelled, just like a good restaurant, right? Like, oh my God, you've got to have these soup dumplings that I
That's
had
right.
from this, right? You have to share it. So it has to be like that. And you're so good at, people definitely have to check out your book. They can hear just from that example. You're so good at getting to that so that people can understand how they can do it for themselves.
Yes, absolutely right.
That was a great example. And thank you for using me. I like that.
Of course.
Always use me as the guinea pig on my podcast there. Maybe there's so much to talk about in around your book here. I'm just looking at some of the notes that I've taken, and I have a lightning round, but let's talk about, you talk about some of the things that we do, your podcast, speaking, to have sort of these be working in different prongs. But what if someone says, I just don't have the capacity to set up a podcast and do these other things? Where do you think is the most important place for someone to start?
Sure, absolutely. So there's actually two halves to this market eminence equation. There's the internal game that's really about positioning and differentiation and reframing what you do so that it is not better, because you can't win the game of better anymore, but so that it's different. I'm going to quote the great business philosopher Jerry Garcia. When he was asked about the success of the Grateful Dead, he said, well, you don't want to be considered to be the best of the best. You want to be considered to be the only ones who do what you do. So the internal game is reframing and positioning and differentiating what you do so that it really becomes a category of one. The strategies that you're talking about, Penny, are the amplifier strategies, the second part of this, which is external. How do we amplify this message? How do we magnify this message? How do we get seen and get heard in this ultra noisy marketplace? And there I recommend three things. I will address your question about what if we think we don't have
this
time.
is great.
But it's speaking, publishing, and podcasting. So speaking is speaking in person. It's speaking internally. It's internal communication. It's external communication. If you're an executive with a public company, it's going to be those investor meetings. It's going to be talking to Wall Street, talking to analysts, talking to perhaps investors. So any kind of speaking in person, speaking virtually, webinars, all of these things are ways that you articulate your fabulousness. And speaking raises your visibility. So that's pillar number one of this magnification plan. Pillar number two is publishing. And I don't mean necessarily publishing a book like you and I have done several times, but publishing as far as putting your ideas in a fixed format where it can be consumed by others. This could be your blog. This could be your Substack newsletter. This could be your next LinkedIn post. This could be your about page on your website. But
can I stop you for a second there?
Sure, go ahead.
For 1 second. So I think it's important that like C-suite people understand it could also be like an internal newsletter that you create.
Totally.
Right? So that it's not just those external things. It's also the internal things.
Internal and
one of my
external.
Clients as a CEO, he publishes a newsletter to his team. That's a way for him to get his ideas out and things like that.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And then the third piece of this is not podcast hosting. I mean, we don't need to go there first, but podcast guesting. So I had you on my show. It's such a privilege to be here now with you as your guest. But podcast guesting is so fantastic because you get to borrow other people's audiences. So if there's a big industry podcast, if there's a big industry conference that has a podcast, or a big media company in your industry that has publications, podcasts, webinars, you need to be a significant voice in your industry, not doing all the work that Penny does and that I do to host our podcast, but just to be a frequent guest and a frequent contributor of ideas. And when people say, well, David, we don't have any new ideas, we're just a fill in the blank, right? We're just another SaaS company. We're just another whatever financial services firm. I say, well, let's go back to the three things that we talked about with your content. So, how can you, as a podcast guest, talk about how to think, what to believe and what not to believe, and how to get ready for what's coming next? So, we prepare a little brief in those three areas. And then people go from, I have nothing to say, to being really excited about sharing their message and their company's message as a podcast guest. So those are amplification strategies, but you can't amplify the way that your company is showing up now. So the internal work has to happen before you should even worry about the external work or the amplification work.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you pointed out, right, that there's the two pieces because there's, like I said, there's so much to this in the practical application. I think you also have kind of knowing where you are. You have these four zones. Let's talk about that, and then I want to ask you some other questions in a different direction.
Sure, absolutely. So I think you're talking about sort of the four levels of market eminence. Is that right?
You talk about the obscurity gap.
Yes, 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 yes. So let's look at this as like four levels as you're climbing a mountain. A lot of times the clients that come to me say, well, David, we do great work. Our clients love us, but to the rest of the world, we're a best kept secret. So best kept secret is in fact level one or level zero. Sometimes these CEOs or these companies, they think they have a marketing problem and that's why they're the best kept secret. What they really have is an obscurity problem that they haven't made themselves visible enough. So once you get to level two, it's like, okay, now we're visible. Now we're posting more on LinkedIn. Now we're more contributing to the conversation in our industry. We've started to build out some of those three areas of content that I said are going to be AI proof. And problem there is you might still look like and sound like some of your competitors.
Everyone else.
So you're
Right.
easily interchangeable, right? One financial services company, one bank, and banks and financial services are the worst at this, right? One bank looks very much like another bank. One financial services firm looks and sounds much like another financial services firm. So now we have to elevate to a level of specificity. We have to go against the grain. We have to add a little bit of contrarian messaging in here. So this is the part that getting to level three is what scares a lot of people because they will say to me, well, David, if we say what we believe, if we really kind of, shout our manifesto from the rooftops, it's going to ruffle some feathers. Some people are going to be upset. Some people might not like what we have to say. They might not like what we actually stand for. And I say, okay, let's assume that's true. So people that don't believe what you believe, people that are not in alignment with your values, do you really want those people as clients? And they go, oh my God, no. Do you really want those people to come work for you? Oh my goodness, absolutely not. Do you want to take investment money from those kinds of people? Oh no, that would be like oil and water. Absolutely no. I said, so here's the deal. When you build to this level 3 of market eminence, you are turning on a huge electromagnet in your business. And one side of this electromagnet is incredibly strong in pulling in the best fits, the best fit clients, the best fit talent, the best fit partners, the best fit media, investors, all of your stakeholders. Turn the electromagnet around, and it is an equally powerful repelling force that it keeps out the bad fits, the people that you would never want to work with, the people that you would never want to come and work for you, the folks you'd never want to hire, the folks that you would never want to take money from, the people who are toxic, dangerous, and anti everything you believe in. So now when I sit down with a CEO or an executive team and I say, listen, if we put guardrails, if we put a giant gate in front of your business, and the only people that this gate is designed to keep out is people that you would never want to associate with, would you be okay with that? And we spend a little bit of time processing that out loud, and usually the conclusion they come to is, yes, in fact, that would be awesome. That would save us so much time and so much money and so much heartache. We would love to install that gate that repels all the bad fit stakeholders in all those areas. So I said, okay, welcome to market eminence. And then the last level, the fourth level, is what I call the business mavericks. So this is where the dynamic sort of flips. And instead of you always having to chase and pursue and convince, clients and customers now chase you. You now automatically attract all of the right stakeholders, meaning the talent, the partners, the media, the investors, possibly even the acquirers, people who want to buy your company and buy your business. And this is also where you enter into premium pricing, premium clients, really great profit margins, really high market capitalization. So becoming that category of one has outsized benefits to the top 5% of the players in any industry. That level is, the business mavericks are the ones that have that ultimate level of market eminence.
Love it. And one of the things I talk about is with all of the ways that people now come into our world, our funnel or whatever you want to call it, and even the information and there's just more and more and more of everything. And so what we need is to be able to filter faster. And so this
Yes.
is a beautiful way, like you said, to more quickly have your salespeople freed up because they're not dealing with all of the tire kickers who are just wasting your time.
That's right.
They're not a fit. The quicker that you can filter and see who's a fit and who's not, the more you're going to convert because then you can talk to more of those types of people. So I think that is really a smart way to look at it as well.
Filter faster is a great way to put it, 100%.
Well, that is totally the name of the game today, right? So
Yeah,
in all aspects, also when we're looking to be able to focus on what's most important to us.
right.
So I want to come back. I have some thoughts of maybe some quick round of questions for you. So these are sort of, hopefully we can do them quickly.
Sure.
But if there's one belief about personal branding that you think that people need to unlearn, what would you say that is?
That personal branding is about you.
And what is one thing that you said no to recently that created more space for you to do your best work?
I turned off a very profitable, very long-standing group coaching program because I came to the realization that my very best clients get the best results from one-on-one.
And do you have a reset word? So kind of one word that helps you realign when things get noisy, or a phrase?
Action, action.
Action.
After all, being the do it guy, right? Do it marketing, do it speaking, do
figured.
it selling. I'm all about the action. So action eliminates fear is my little mantra.
Oh, good, good. Awesome. A lot of people can use that. And if your brand disappeared tomorrow, what's the first thing that you would do to rebuild it?
I would read my own little book and get busy on my own market eminence from square zero. That's a great question.
And what would that first thing be for you? Like, and everybody is different, but what would that first thing be?
For me, it would actually be speaking to targeted groups of my target market, because speaking is the fastest, most efficient one-to-many lead generator and one-to-many sales platform that we have.
Awesome. And what would you let go of? You specifically, if you had to start all over again?
Well, this is right in your wheelhouse. I would let go of the notion that my value is tied to my busyness.
That's a good one for somebody who has action as their number one word, right? That could go hand in hand to keep you from taking too much action.
You bet.
Very good. Let's see. What is a moment that you had to step back to see that the obstacle that you were facing was actually the opportunity?
Well, this happened in December of 2024. I went from having a team of 11 to me and a VA. So I had this big empire. I had other trainers, other coaches. I had this whole little mini organization behind me. And I gave them 3 months notice. It wasn't a surprise. So I told them in September that as of December 31, this is the David Newman show. And I went from being an empire builder back to being a craftsperson. And I think my entrepreneurial DNA is much more about being a craftsperson than being an empire builder. And that took a lot of stepping back, introspection. Is my self-worth tied to having a big team and, big bragging rights and everything? I am so much happier, Penny, as a company of one than I was as the leader of a company of 11.
Good for you. And there's phases, right? There's phases of people's lives where you might say
yes,
that was a good time for building. And, for whatever reason, there are times where you want to do something different, do it in a different way.
totally.
So being open and flexible. And what I say is if we have these reset rhythms, these times for reflection to say what's important now to us that and what is the highest priority now based on our current context and situation, it gives us the opportunity to understand it doesn't need to be permanent. Any choice that we made, it's something that is our priorities are living and breathing as we move through life and through our business.
So well put. Totally agree.
So, with that, we're at the end of our time. How can people find you and your new book and make contact?
Sure. So, a couple of resources for the Market Eminence book. You're not going to believe this. You can go to marketeminence.com and get all sorts of companion tools, resources, and downloads. Our main website is doitmarketing.com, and there's a blog, and there's a podcast, and there's even more free downloads there. So please help yourself to both sets of those resources.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here and sharing so much of this really great food for thought for anybody, whether they're an entrepreneur or whether they're working in a company at any level.
Penny, this was great. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. And thank you all for being on. I want you to really take some time after this to get your journal out and to write down what was the one thing that you took away that you can use right now, that you could put into practice? You heard David say that action breaks through that fear and it creates momentum. And so if you're looking to get more exposure, to build your business, to build your own market eminence or domination, what's the one thing that you can start with? Because remember, however the statement goes, the journey of 1,000 steps starts with your first step. So make sure that you're thinking about that and definitely go check out David's things. I'm telling you, he definitely has gold in there and it'll give you everything that you need to reflect upon and put into action. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Time to Reset. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.